Humanity's exciting journey to the moon, spearheaded by NASA's Apollo program, turned out to be not only an engineering feat, but also the beginning of a mysterious chapter in the history of astronomy, revealed by Ken Johnston, former director of the Data and Image Control Division at the Lunar Processing Laboratory. In 2007, Johnston drew attention to himself with the sensational revelation that the Apollo crew had stumbled upon traces of an ancient city with unimaginable technology buried deep in the lunar dust. This scientist says the American astronauts have discovered not only traces of an ancient civilization, but also a machine that supposedly controls gravity. But what did the first man to land on the moon see? Not to mention the famous phrase known to all. We're talking about the popular conspiracy theory about the recording of radio amateurs claiming to have intercepted Neil Armstrong's actual words. According to them, in the conversation with the base on the ground, he mentions that he notices something unusual and can't figure out exactly what he sees. NASA is asking him if there's a problem. He replies that he sees large objects that are huge and are on the other side of the crater. He points out that there are other spacecraft on the moon observing them. This dialogue is often cited by some proponents of UFO and alien theories as evidence of such encounters. However, we were unable to find any credible evidence or the recording itself. All we have found on the subject are just tales on the subject in various forums. After the lunar expeditions, however, Wernher von Braun said, "There are extraterrestrial forces much more powerful than we suppose. I'm not allowed to say anything more about it." On the other hand, no wonder all information about aliens on the moon is classified. The presence of ruins of ancient cities, mysterious structures and mechanisms on its surface is also said to be hidden from the world public. These potential discoveries awaken many questions about possible previous inhabitants of the moon, or possible visits from other civilizations. Ken Johnston provides an extremely interesting description of the structures found on the lunar surface. According to him, the objects photographed by the astronauts include ruined buildings that lie under huge glass domes, structures that evoke associations of sheltered or habitable spaces designed to withstand the harsh conditions of the moon. In addition, he mentions stone towers that give the impression of floating or sitting in the air. Such descriptions suggest architectural and engineering achievements far beyond the understanding and technological capabilities of modern human civilization. Even more remarkable is the fact that despite NASA's order to Johnston to destroy the evidence, he chose to preserve it. This is his way of resisting efforts to suppress this information. He is determined to reveal the truth to the public, even though he is clear about the personal risk and professional challenges that await him. Johnston and his co-authors, Richard K. Hoagland and Mike Barra, present these revelations in their book, The Dark Mission. This book not only marks historic moments in astronautics, but also raises waves of questions about information kept secret by governments. Kay Ferrari, director of JPL's space program, reacted instantly to these revelations, asking Johnston to step down from his position, underscoring the pressure and tension that this information is generating in scientific and government circles. Johnston's refusal to resign, citing the Freedom of Speech Act, only further inflames the situation. In fact, he not only accuses NASA of withholding data, but of falsifying and manipulating images to hide unsolved structures and anomalies on the lunar surface by removing them from the images. In the end, Johnston, while not resigning, cannot escape the critical eye of his employer. After continually accusing the agency of manipulation and cover-up, he was fired. Subsequently, this only leads him to intensify his expression of frustration over the government's long-standing suppression of information related to the moon. But the legacy of this story is not limited to these revelations. It extends to President Kennedy's ambition to cooperate with the Soviet Union in the exploration of space, including a joint mission to the moon. President John F. Kennedy was known for his ambition to conquer space, which he articulated to the American people and the world in the 1960s. His famous address to the U.S. Congress on May 25, 1961, proclaimed America's bold goal of sending a man to the moon and returning him safely to Earth before the end of the decade. This marked the beginning of the Apollo program, which eventually fulfilled this ambition with the landing of Apollo 11 on the moon in July 1969. However, Kennedy also showed interest in the idea of cooperating in the exploration of space with the Soviet Union. In the context of the Cold War, this idea was revolutionary and offered the possibility of reducing tensions between the world's two superpowers. On September 20, 1963, during his speech to the United Nations General Assembly, Kennedy proposed the idea of a joint effort with the Soviet Union in space exploration, including a joint mission to the moon. He expressed his belief that this alliance could become a symbol of international cooperation and help build bridges between East and West. Kennedy says, "Ultimately, our most fundamental common interest is that of using space for peaceful purposes." The president may have been sincere in his words at the time, but observing the world's situation today, they do not seem particularly credible. Although Kennedy's idea for a joint mission to the moon did not materialize during his tenure, which was tragically cut short by his death in November 1963, it laid the groundwork for future cooperation in space exploration. In 1975, the Apollo-Soyuz test project took place, in which American and Soviet spacecraft docked in orbit. Then we saw the fleshing out of some of these very ideas of cooperation. That cooperation continues today in the International Space Project, the International Space Station, ISS for short. Although it was launched after the Cold War period, it can be seen as one of the most successful embodiments of this vision of cooperation. The station is an orbiting science laboratory that represents one of the most ambitious projects in human history. It is the result of work between 5 space agencies: NASA, USA, Roscosmos, Russia, JAXA, Japan, ESA, European Union, and CSA, Canada. The creation of the ISS began in 1998 with the launch of its first module, Zarya, which means dawn in Russian. Since then, the station has grown with numerous modules and components delivered and assembled in orbit through a series of space missions. The station is inhabited year-round and functions as a space home for international teams of astronauts and cosmonauts from 17 countries who live and work there for extended periods. The ISS orbits the Earth at an altitude of about 400 kilometers, 250 miles, at a speed that allows its crew to watch the sunrise and sunset every 90 minutes. That is, it makes one complete revolution around the globe in an hour and a half. That means the astronauts see about 16 sunrises and sunsets every day. The station is equipped with a unique science laboratory in microgravity, allowing scientists to conduct experiments that would not be possible on Earth. Research aboard covers a wide range of scientific disciplines, including biology, human physiology, physics, astronomy, and meteorology. In addition, the ISS serves as a test bed for technologies needed for future long-term space missions to the Moon, Mars, and beyond. It plays a critical role in the development of life support systems, resource management, and protection from cosmic radiation. Speaking of the world of space exploration, Richard Hoagland's findings introduce a highly intriguing perspective on the renewed interest in the Moon by global powers. The United States, along with Russia, China, Japan, and India, are demonstrating their accelerated efforts to explore our satellite, suggesting that there is more than just scientific curiosity behind this competition. Hoagland supports the idea that the secrets the Moon holds have been the subject of in-depth study by the US for decades. He makes an interesting statement. Both NASA and the Soviet space program are discovering that we are not alone in the universe. There are ruins on the Moon, the legacy of a culture that was considerably more enlightened than we are today. In this context, we can consider the question of future discoveries that space agencies may make in relation to the Moon. The suggestion that there are traces of ancient civilizations or technologies raises questions not only about their origins and significance, but also about how such information would be received by the public. There are two main paths that the situation could take. The first is for the discovery to be announced and shared with the public, which could lead to a global rethinking of human history and our place in the cosmos. Which, frankly, between us is very unlikely to happen. The second path is to keep secrets hidden to prevent potential societal or political upheaval. There is a real possibility that these discoveries could offer new insight into our past, present, and future. But unfortunately, this will most likely remain in the knowledge of only a select handful of people. With every discovery made on the Moon or beyond, the question arises as to its value not only scientifically, but also culturally and socially. The question of whether NASA or any other space agency will choose to share such information with the world is more a matter of policy and strategy than a matter of global responsibility and transparency. It is clear to all that the stance NASA or other space agencies take on future discoveries will have a profound impact on the way humanity perceives its place in the space community and its worldview of the unknown. In fact, how does all this sound to you? What and how much are you inclined to believe? Be sure to support us by subscribing to the channel and telling at least one friend about this video.